The May 14th meeting of the Urbana Free Library Board of Directors come to order. At this time, I'd like to ask our secretary to swear in our new board member.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, and you next me.
Okay.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the library trustee to the best of my ability. It's too long. And I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the library trustees
of the office of the Library of Trustees
to the best of my
to the
ability.
best of my ability.
Part of that, you'll sign
Sign there. Oh, we,
She could just take it over and sit and do it.
okay, we need another one.
Okay.
Okay, Lupe, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name's Lupe Mejia. I am a transplant here to Urbana. We've been here for about 5 years. My husband and I moved here. I took a position as the chief of optometry at the Danville VA 5 years ago. So my husband and I decided to settle here and settle some roots to raise our family. So I have 2 young children. Outside of the optometry world, we are avid readers. We are very much engaged in our community, so this is a way for me to stay involved and give back to the community, especially here in Urbana since I spend so much time in Danville otherwise. But my husband's a writer. I have 2 active, beautiful children that keep me going, so I wear lots of different hats. But I'm really excited to be here and share my experience, my leadership experience, and just my perspectives.
Welcome. Great.
And in the winter months, she has to get up and leave for Danville about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark.
It's very
Her
dark.
brother is a trustee.
He is an Algonquin.
Oh, wow.
Very good. Becky, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, Jane. Barbara Bennett.
Present.
Sherry.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Beth.
Here.
Lupe. And Barbara.
Here.
We're missing Michael.
Does any member have any any item that they would like to remove from the consent agenda?
Wrong agenda. We're not there yet.
If not,
Wrong agenda.
it's not the consent agenda, it's from the entire agenda.
Any
Okay.
additions?
Corrections or modifications.
Do I hear any?
Yes,
If
I
not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have public comments. No? We don't have any public comments. We don't have any public, okay. That's a shame. The presentation by the city engineers. Would you introduce yourself? Because I guess I've got it here, but.
I'm Craig Schumparler, Assistant City Engineer for Transportation at the City of Urbana. And I have Shannon Bernick, she's with me as a staff engineer and does road design work. Give you a little background, we primarily deal with streets. We design projects throughout the city. We employ consultants and work with them. I'm the project manager on the new core P5 project. I was thinking maybe later when we get a little bit further along with that, I might come and present some information about that project to you folks.
That'd be great.
That's on a fast track right now with the consultant out of Peoria doing the design. When Anka approached us, we looked at the parking lot. We thought maybe we could come up with some simple types of options here. The parameters, though, just so you know, we weren't looking at permeable pavements or anything very complex here. We're trying to do something that was pretty basic since it was a staff law. Shannon is tasked with developing the rehabilitation and reconstruction options and cost estimating under my review. I'm going to turn it over to her. She'll do the presentation, and then we'll answer questions from you folks when she gets done.
try to make it so I can see without leaving his way. I might just do this. So we're, as Craig mentioned, we were tasked with looking at the staff parking lot that's just to the south of the building. See what we could do, give some options. I've been out there several times, so I can put these together. So this was a request, evaluate the parking lot. I came up with 3 options for you guys. Just so we have understanding of where it is. The north arrow is right up by the library parking lot, and the staff lot is to the south there in the blue square, and the green is the alley that's just north of the parking lot, which I'll touch on at the end of my presentation. The current condition of the lot is not great. I'm sure most of you have seen it. There's a big tree right in the middle of it. There's vegetation growing around it, broken fence, other debris accumulated to the size of it. Many of the parking bumpers are broken, displaced. Some actually aren't even whole anymore. And the actual pavement itself has a lot of deterioration. There's cracks, ruts, potholes. It's just not very good. This is the tree, in case anyone's unfamiliar with it. And the tree itself, besides just being in the way, is also causing damage. So all of our options include removing this tree, which will also give you a few more spaces. This is the debris and tree trimming and broken fence that needs to go. In the bottom corner, some of those bad parking bumpers. And then in all my options, all of this stuff is included in every option. Tree trimming, fence, all of that is, because it has to be done regardless which option you would choose to go with. These are some of those. There's another slide this way. You can see just down the length of it heading towards a tree, there's a big crack and it's deteriorating, and it's only gonna get worse past summer when the rains come in the fall and then it freezes and then people fall in the ice in addition to the pavement being damaged. But fortunately, it rained, so I could show some of the holes. The one in the bottom corner is behind the tree, so you can't actually get to that hole currently. So with all those pictures, these were the 3 options that I had put in the memo. Patching with oil and chip overlay is just cutting out those holes, filling with concrete, and then putting oil and chip surface over the top. In essence, yes, it's the most cost effective, but it's also only a Band-Aid, so you'd be spending more money in the future on top of the estimated 50 grand. And none of these include any possible engineering consulting fees for an outside consultant or material testing. These are just the base, like I put the materials together and estimated the cost. Second option is a little bit better than the first one. Same, cut out the holes, patch it with concrete, but put a 2-inch asphalt surface layer over the top. That too is a bigger Band-Aid, but you will have more maintenance costs in the future. The third option, which is the one we recommended in the memo, is full reconstruction of either going asphalt or concrete. Both worked out roughly the same cost. Ultimately, it would be up to what contract got bidded on. You could have your engineering consultants do alternate bids, and you might have one come back, well, asphalt cheaper this year, so that one would come back lower. It's not something we can estimate because you don't know until you bid it out. Actually, I already touched on this. So reconstruction, I know it has a big price tag. Anka had sticker shock we showed her the other week, but it is your best option. It's going to get you the biggest longevity. Then you can use the parking lot for other things, like if you have events, you have an overflow, you could put like a band shell there, maybe have people actually in it, not worry about tripping on roots or holes or any of the like. So with that in mind, we also did a second request with the alley that's just north of the parking lot. This is additional. It's I hate to use the word optional, but it's not included in the cost of the actual parking lot. It's something you could add on should you want to.
And to clarify, I mean, the library owns that alley.
Is there any chance that would ever be, that neighbors would ever want to have right to that alley?
It's between 2 library-owned properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We own all of that.
We own
All around it, okay.
You own all of
We
that.
are all around, okay.
Because the Weber property is north of the alley and the parking lot is south of it.
Yeah, okay.
Since you're the neighbor, yeah, you did.
And with the alley, it has extensive running, which is, you can see where you're standing there, you know, the pavement does this. There's cracking, potholes are starting to form, and like the parking lot, it's only gonna get worse the more rain you get, the more people drive on it. There's really no way to not take care of it in the near future. I mean, you could just let it go, but it's not really ideal. So I just have a few pictures of the alley. So you can see the cracking. There's actually enough running in the top left picture where rocks have started to settle, being washed there by the rain. There's potholes forming in the bottom right, and then one farthest to the right. And, you know, I didn't notice many people driving that way. They tend to go out through the township lot when they come in and out, so I don't know how much people are using it, but it might be because this is the state of it. Those come with a little smaller price tag, not as scary. The first one would be asphalt millings, which is basically when you grind off the surface of a road, we put them in LRC, which is the Landscape Recycling Center, and you can come back and put those in kind of like gravel. You compact it, and then you put asphalt surface seal over the top to make it like almost like a pavement. It helps stop more damage from happening. Again, a little bit of a Band-Aid. So if you go with option 2, that would actually take out the alley pavement down to a depth of 12 inches. You'd fill it with aggregate and then put that same asphalt surface seal over top. Give you a little stronger pavement, more resistant to running, and for a low traffic alleyway, that would probably be a good bet for you. And then these also do not include any engineering consulting fees or material testing. So yeah, with the alley, both options are viable. The second one does give you more longevity, a little less maintenance. You would have to resurface seal both of them in the future. So, any questions?
To Celeste, do we have an agreement with the renters that they have the lot behind that? That could never be used for staff parking, right?
Correct. So the parking lot immediately south of the Weber building which is currently all leased out.
Yeah.
Those 8 spots are promised to the tenants.
And is there any of our property between the township building and the Weber property?
Can you go back to the first slide? Or the slide with the map? So make sure we're talking about the same.
Yeah.
There. So this is the Weber building, this is the Weber
Yeah.
parking lot. So they don't park here and we don't park there. What was your other question, Chris? This is the township here. And this is the township's parking lot, and they have a tiny bit of parking lot here.
But the green space, who owns that?
So we own this. You, the library board, own this. We lease it to the township. They have their community garden on it, but it is owned by the library board.
But if we were to need parking lot, it's ours.
That's true.
Yeah.
We lease it for a year at a time to the
Yeah.
township for the community garden. So if in a future development you wanted to make that parking, that's a choice you have.
One other thing I'd like for board members to take into consideration is that if and when we expand this building, you have to have a site on which to stage. And it probably would be this property, because we would be building to the west of this building. So it's a lot of things to consider here before we decide what we're going to do. Plus, if we would use that for staging in addition to this building, I would hate to have spent a lot of money on it and then tear it out, the staging or whatever. So I think there's a lot of things we have to consider. But we have to get better parking, and probably the tree is the biggest thing that's got to be done. Questions?
Yes, I have a question about the tree. I know this is nuts, but do we have to tear it down? I hate removing trees. I just want to know why we're doing it.
Absolutely.
I'll speak first. Initially, we did look at saving the tree. We brought the city arborist out.
Oh,
We took
Mike
a
brought
look
it.
at, we had Mike look at it, and the thing is, you know, at the base of the tree, the pavement is deteriorated. It will continue to deteriorate. One thing that he was talking about is that if you were to keep it, you were gonna have to deadhead it probably every 2 to 3 years. So that means you gotta get, it's recommended then you would be on some 2 to 3 year cycle where you would hire an arborist, somebody to come in and actually cut some of the limbs out. Right now, there are dead limbs within that tree. that are prone or are subject to possibly falling down on the parking lot. So that is another concern. But when we look at it as operationally within the parking lot itself, the tree is just smack dab in the middle of the flow of the parking lot. There's some unused options there to the north of the tree where basically nobody could park. We kind of talked about maybe that could be a bike parking area when I was first talking with Mike and Celeste and Anka. But in the end, given the age of the tree, given that you have to do the deadheading, we are recommending that you take the tree out. It doesn't mean that you have to. If you want to keep the tree, though, you really need to remove a good chunk of the asphalt around the base of the tree to allow the tree to get water penetration more than it's getting now.
Why
And
did
we-
we leave it there?
What was the question?
What,
What'd you say?
why did they leave it there, you know, when they built the parking lot? I mean,
First of all, the Weber is my grandfather.
Yeah.
And I parked there for a very long time, right under the tree. And the tree's got to go. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that the tree lasted as long as it did. And I can just imagine my grandfather trying to, hold out as long as possible. But it really, it comes at a very great cost to leave it there. It's not good for the cars that are around it. It really frustrates. It's not safe because you're driving through. It's very easy to hit the tree. So sadly, I think we've got to get rid of the tree.
Yeah. One other item, and Shannon can speak to this a little bit more, but one of the things we did look at was lighting. And Shannon will speak with what she found out from Ameren reps, but it was felt that with the tree being removed and some of the things that she can talk about, that could improve the lighting, the illumination, with the tree being gone in that parking lot, which then is another safety aspect. But Shannon, you want to share your?
Yeah, and I didn't put down an official memo because it was just me meeting with Ameren in the parking lot. The Ameren rep did say, but there's 3 lights in that lot, the one that's right by the tree and then 2 off the alley, that because Ameren wants to save themselves problem in the future, they will willingly replace all 3 of those lights with efficiency LEDs that won't direct into the houses next door because they don't have to fix them for like 15 years, from what they said. So as of a month ago, they said they will do it for free. I did have witnesses, but I didn't write it down because in case they change their mind. If I did want to mention that they're willing to upgrade those with better lights that would help improve lighting in the parking lot.
Chris?
I would imagine we actually gained some space, too.
Shannon, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So in the alley, part of it is adjacent not just to our property, but to the township. And so when you have your estimate for the option that would pave.
So the alley is weirdly shaped. I actually looked this up with our surveyor at work to make sure we have the shape of it. And the library actually does own this strip that cuts out right here.
Okay.
And then the rest is actually city alley, the one that's like this wide that goes between the house and the
Oh, wow.
property, that I don't know whatever went through there. So that is actually the shape of what the property is.
Okay, well, I was reacting to the suggestion that it was based on, generally, it is half, you go to the midpoint of a alley, but that's distracting. My point is, when you have that estimate, it's the entire alley.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Now in the options 1 and 2 for the parking lot, that actually includes partially just taking a strip of this alley and making an aggregate border, because doing the surface seals would create a weird discontinuity. So you actually have to do like a little strip. For the full reconstruction, you don't have to because you would just cut that out. So that would actually make the alley a little more optional at that point. But should you go with option 1 or 2, then you get like, I think it's around $1,700 reduction in total cost because you wouldn't have to do that part of the alley. So
What's the condition of the parking lot that's adjacent to the building?
from what I remember being out there, it's like this one.
Yes.
It's okay. It's better than the library staff lot. I didn't really evaluate because it wasn't part of the task, but I remember like just being out there, it's much more even, less deterioration.
With either the concrete or the asphalt options and with the sealants, what's the lifespan these days?
Well, so well, let's walk through the different options. If you do the first one, you're going to probably need to reapply applications maybe every 5 to 7 years. You would have to stripe probably during the half-life of that, so every 3 years or so. If you do the option number 2, the mill and fill type of application, well, you could get, say, 12 to 15 years out of it, but at some point, you're going to want to seal it. So you crack seal and then seal it itself, and then you got to restripe, and then you'll want to do that periodically through time. That would be require more maintenance than, say, option number 3A, which was the asphalt. When that's reconstructed, you could feasibly probably go 15 to 20 years with doing nothing. You'll get cracking, water intrusion. But what we're trying to do at the city right now, we're going to be doing a conditional assessment on all our parking lots this summer, and we've resurfaced some back in 2013, and we're like everybody else, we're cash strapped. We haven't done any maintenance on those, but we need to get in so that here we are 6 years later, we've got some cracking, and we need to go in and seal those up, and then maybe even just put a fresh layer over the top. Now with the city, I will tell you that we would not use typical preservation methods that most asphalt sealer contractors would use, which is coal tar. We don't want to use that because that's not good for the environment, so we have to look at other options. That is another additional cost to do that. I mean, that's a different product, doesn't mean you can't do it.
Was that on there?
That would, none of these ongoing costs are included. These would be first costs that we're seeing there. Then with the last option, conceivably you could put that down and maybe not touch it for 20 to 40 years. It just depends, but you're going to have to do probably striping more on like every other year basis because paint doesn't adhere to concrete very well through that. I mean, when you look at your alley, your parking out here in front of the library, it's concrete. You probably do very little maintenance on that. The one benefit with concrete too is the static loading. So meaning you have a warm day, you don't get the potential of the vehicles sitting down into the asphalt. You can have that with asphalt, but I want to preface that, as engineers, we look at the pluses and minuses. I will say that you could go either way. You could do, there's nothing, you can do asphalt and you can do concrete. If it was me and we were doing a city lot and I see probably the same cost, I'd probably bid out an alternate just because I get the better chance that the market may give me something that is more cost effective. One thing that I want to preface though is these costs are based on projected 2019 dollars. So when you see 102,000, there's some contingencies in there, but we are not bidders. So there's a tendency to buy it in the bids in this stage. We're not bidders, we're projecting, and we're projecting based upon similar type scope work. The 102, we're hoping, we think is on the higher side, that you'll probably get something that's a little bit more cost effective than that. And then, we can look like the bad guys that told you it was 102 and it's less. It could go the other way, and that depends on the market, and we find out with our street projects, it really depends on, if there's a lot of work and the demand's high, then, we risk that we have higher cost. Now, the engineering consultant part is just a rule of thumb. So that's in your memo there. It's just a rule of thumb. That's not a negotiated price, obviously. That would be something that you would need to do with an engineering consultant. Plus, they may have other ideas than what we have that maybe you could lower the cost to. We would also be willing to share our details of our cost estimates with whoever you employ. Anka did ask if we could do the design. We certainly have the technical capabilities to do it. We just don't have the staff bandwidth to do it. We have plenty of work within the city that we have to take care of. So we don't have the option to do that. So just keep that in mind. I've dealt with a lot of boards in my career, and just understand that in the scoping of a project, this is like giving you some comparisons across the board, but it's not meaning that this is exactly X amount of dollars. This gives you an idea how to compare options and get you programming money, which we hope is on the higher side. There's some contingency in there. So,
What is the timeline, considering that it might be a part of the city's proposal that we would be bidding with the city or whatever? What is your projection for other things in the city? Are you wanting a decision by this board, let's say by August? Or is it sooner than that?
So I would view your project as completely independent of
You
the
would,
city's
okay.
project. We will be doing conditional assessments through the summer. Our consultant will be looking at work over the winter to develop with next year in 2020 to do some maintenance projects. So ours are different than yours.
Okay.
Ours will probably, so we have a philosophy where we've switched from what we call worst first. That's where, like yours is worst first, right? We're looking at, we'll probably go to something where we set fair to good. So ours will be going in and patching select locations and resetting. We'll be taking a lot of money relative and spreading it over many parking lots. The other ones that need help, those are a separate project that we won't be doing that with that. That's some of the philosophies that you're seeing through town and on the city streets. We're kind of trying to reset the good stuff so we don't let that continue to degrade, to get that set back up. So what I'm saying is sort of, we're not going to have the same projects at all. You would probably go independent of that, I would think.
Okay, because I think there's one thought of if you're doing a couple large projects and going out to bid,
Right.
then we could be a part of a bid package.
Yes, yes.
But I'm not hearing that you're looking at large projects.
No, we have, just to put it in relative terms, I mean, we have sort of, I guess you would say, rolled over funds through the years just to get to where we're at. We have, I don't remember how many lots there are, but we're talking upwards of 20 lots that we're looking at spreading probably 200,000 over those 20 lots. So we don't have, and part of our condition assessment will tell us how much we really need for, these other lots that need some help. We may even recommend to the city council that there are lots that we sell off, that, like we have a lot, for instance, up, I think it's Busey, that's a gravel lot that's just overgrown with weeds that, we'd have to consider those things, but I don't know if that helps you.
It does.
I have a question about how this project fits with other infrastructure projects the library has considered, at least since I've been on the board, like air conditioning and chiller things, whether this is in the same category budgetary-wise, whether we then would have to come back and set priorities about which comes first, the parking lot or the chiller. Is that what we're talking about here?
So the maximum amounts that were listed as potential prices, including the engineering fees at 30%, are included in the budget for fiscal 20 for your approval, or for not.
Okay.
But we wanted to put in the, not recommended maximum, but the rough, close to rough estimate of what it could be. So it's in the budget for next year. So a couple of years back, we spent $125,000 on replacing the boiler.
Yes.
And then we spent with foundation, and that was gifts from the city.
Okay.
And then with gifts from the foundation, this year we replaced the chiller, which was just hanging on.
Right.
And that was X number, over $100,000. And at the same time, the porch, which is almost exactly $100,000. So this year we had a couple $100,000 in capital improvements. This would be a capital improvement for next year of, let's call it 160, 170,000. So after a lot of things weren't being addressed in these big picture ways, we've been trying to save a little bit and also address things with money from the city and the foundation, and this would come from either a gift funding or from fund balance.
So there's nothing that we have to put on the back burner because of this. In other words, are we making choices? Okay.
That is correct.
Thank
and so
you. That helps.
In the March budget, just to follow up with that, there is a list of potential projects on a timeline that Kathy and then Anna have updated, listing different priorities and when we anticipate, like the air handler or other things might go.
Yeah.
or the roof, so the roof is.
Because I'm getting more, I'm
Sure.
forgetting.
Yeah, there's a lot, it's a lot.
Was this in that priority list?
No, because we had
No.
no idea it was that bad.
That's
This
what I
winter was,
thought.
Okay,
we knew
that's-
it wasn't great, but this winter really
Okay.
was hard on it. And then last year, the trees started dropping some limbs, and some of them were lower limbs, and so and they were literally hanging, so broken but hanging, and a staff member saw it. Mike Brunk came out, they cut it down, but there are other higher up dead ones that Mike said the city doesn't have the capacity to take care of for us. So we know there's some dead limbs up in there. But we didn't know if any other things would happen with the trees, so
Yeah.
we put paused on that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, one thing to add too, to remember that, the Weber lot and that parking lot have only been our property for 5 years or 6 years. So they haven't been on our long-range
That's right.
facilities improvement
Okay,
plan,
this is helpful.
really,
Thanks.
because they weren't part of that list.
That's okay. I sort of wondered where this came from. Now that helps. Thanks a lot.
Craig, so what is your recommendation, what would be your recommendation as far as what the replacement could be?
Our recommendations are, Shannon and I's, is to reconstruct the lot. Whether or not you use asphalt concrete is really your choice.
But as far as materials, do you think that concrete, from what I saw with the presentation, it seems like concrete would be the best
So as somebody that
surface?
manages, as you know, Ms. Hersey, I manage the city's road system.
Right.
And a lot of things I want to put to bed, because we have other things that we need to work on. Some things, some materials work better, and some don't. Now, you could do either or, but for me, when I look as a manager, if I can put something to bed, so to speak, just be done.
Yeah,
Then
that's
I would want to put that to bed and be done. I don't want to have additional maintenance.
exactly.
But I preface that because you could still do either or, you could do the alternatives. I would highly recommend that you not do any of the rehabilitation, whether or not that's the chip or the mill and fill, unless you thought that you had another use for the lot, which, Mr. Schur talked about. Maybe that's where you have to weigh that out. If you thought that you were going to switch at some point and use the lot for something else, well, now you don't want to invest that money in a parking lot.
So my question then, Chris, is when do you anticipate there being a construction or something regarding,
Condition.
For those that are new to the board,
Yeah,
the last time it took over 10 years to get construction moving, so I don't anticipate it happening overnight. But I do think that we need to have that in the back of our mind, that there really would not be room without buying the Feedes house to have a staging area in our existing parking lots. So we'd have to go across the street for staging for an addition to this building, I think.
Well, unless we used the area there that was behind where the funeral home was. I mean, there are some other possibilities for
Well,
staging that would be more
that's true.
convenient. Not saying that we can guarantee that we would have it,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
For years, we parked the staff in the funeral home. Well, that was funeral home, wasn't it?
Oh,
Parking lot.
It's now a vacant lot.
Not in the funeral home.
Way to say it, right?
Where was
Park them at the funeral home.
Craig?
Yes.
So you're really saying that you would prefer concrete
Yeah.
if it's available, but you would bid it out for both? It's because we might choose the asphalt option if it ends up being a lot less expensive.
Yeah. So I guess I'm double talking. I'm telling you that you might want to consider alternate bids, which gives you the best economy.
Because there's a scenario where you would go asphalt.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, you could do asphalt. Like, this year, I can tell you locally, streetwise, there's not a lot of asphalt work out there. So we're trying to get projects out because contractors are hungry. And yet, on the concrete side, there are a plethora of bidders. So really, you're in a win-win situation. Where we find, like on the asphalt side, is like in the next 2 years, it's going to get harder because we have a lot of asphalt projects that are coming out, like University Avenue, will be, and then MCOR will be, actually, that'll be a concrete street in the end. It'll be a concrete street. That one, so we go through a life cycle cost analysis, and we compare concrete and asphalt. We actually go through and project maintenance, and in that case, we have heavy bus loadings, and they're not really a one-to-one comparison thickness-wise. I'm getting in the weeds here.
No, actually, I was going to ask, so for a non-heavy loaded parking lot, what is the thickness for both asphalt and concrete?
I think, Shannon, you would have 5 and 4. Is that what you-
The asphalt was 5 inches and the
Okay.
concrete was 4.
Okay, and then what's the bedding? Yeah, sorry, it's getting a little longer, but just,
I
so,
think it was 4 on the concrete and 8 on the asphalt.
Oh, that's-
It's in the
8?
report.
yeah.
8 inches?
Yeah, because you
8
need
inches on the
to.
asphalt for aggregate and 4 for the concrete.
Okay, that's reasonable.
So the reason there's a difference there is concrete tends to bridge the loading. Asphalt, the loading actually goes down. So you really want that base to be really nice and solid. So getting back to your question, I have to be careful because I work with asphalt contractors and concrete contractors. And there's likely somebody watching this that's going to tell me that I'm preferencing. But when I also look at objectively maintenance costs and just setting something aside, if you want to go with one, it probably might be better to go with concrete and just be done. But you could do asphalt. I want to say that too.
I was trying to give you an out by saying that if the cost is that much less, then there's no question you go asphalt.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And you could let the market bear that out.
Well, quick question about the market. So in the paper recently, there was a story about cost overruns with a couple of major projects, one of which was the soccer track facility for the U of I, and the other was within Unit 4. And it was, I think the U of I project was 50% over.
Yes.
So from what you just said, it sounds like that hasn't reached the paving world.
So-
It's other things that are demand
Vertical
aside.
construction in itself will have, that's another entirely different component there. And there's a lot of moving pieces with that. Fortunately, on flat, we call flat world, or horizontal world, it's a little bit different.
Okay, I gather that's what you meant.
I try, my philosophy is basically undersell kind of everything, because I've been I've worked for private. I don't want to tell you guys 102 and it comes back 204 or something. But the important thing here is we've got you some ballpark numbers to work from. If you choose to retain an engineering consultant, they can further refine those numbers though before they go to bid. So that would be part of the package of work that they would do. They would have a better handle on the true cost, because keep in mind that what the work that Shannon's done is we haven't surveyed the lot, we didn't design the lot. We're just sort of like basically saying, well, this looks like this would be 5 inches. This looks like this would be 4 inches. This, we haven't taken pavement corings. So there is a contingency. I think we used 15% contingency built in on this. But I think with your engineering consultant, at least gives them a parameter to work from. What could happen, let's say that we blew it, and then they, you said you wanted X option, and then at that point it might, let's say it came in a little bit higher than what Celeste's got budgeted, and that kind of thing can happen. Then at that point, then you could then rebudget or add additional funds in your next fiscal year too, if you had to. And be honest with you, that's happened with us. Things, you might discover something in the design phase that you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Is asphalt hotter in the summer than concrete? Or is that a
I'm gonna
stupid question?
turn it over to.
People walking into the library kind of thing?
So my background, I actually did a lot of asphalt research when I was at the U of I.
Oh, nice.
So on the surface, yes, like they always say, like don't walk your dog on hot pavement.
Yeah.
Both asphalt and concrete will be hot because asphalt is black.
Black, okay.
It absorbs more of the heat by reflected like white concrete does. In the grand scheme of like a whole parking lot, you're probably not gonna notice the difference. It's gonna be hot.
Okay.
Because concrete itself will still absorb heat. Like you can walk past a brick wall at night, it's in August, and you still feel the heat radiating off that.
Yeah.
So concrete will be hot too. I mean, there's no real
Okay.
Yeah.
offset on those.
Thank you.
And then you could always replace that tree in the green space that's between the two buildings, so. I agree with you on the tree, but it's.
No, I get it. I get it. We just lost a tree in our house, at our house.
Yeah.
Still in grief.
If I
I
could
get-
volunteer one of my hackberries, I would give it to you, because
It had to come down. Mike is wonderful, but
I guess I'm kind of at a dilemma. We probably don't have to vote tonight, but I think by next month, is that what you're thinking, Celeste? We should know if we want them to go out for bids.
The budget that you hopefully will approve tonight, in one form or another, includes dollars for this.
oh,
So the thing about the budgets, though, which we talked about with Beth, is we could move ahead in getting bids on the different options and then decide which option to go with. But I budgeted high because we could always spend less.
Yeah.
It's easier to pull back than to find extra money.
find
Yeah.
extra money.
Again, we're being conservative.
Chris, I don't know why we wouldn't want to go ahead and give staff direction tonight, based on what we've been hearing.
You think we should go ahead and make some,
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to learn anything new.
because we do need figures, I mean, that's before we can make a final decision.
But I think we ought to have a more
Yeah.
discussion amongst the board
Yeah,
after questions are done.
I agree with you.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, you mean you want to do this?
Well, we,
No, because I think it's going to come up, Celeste has set it up in the budget.
Exactly, 'cause
So-
this is not an action item area right here, but in the budget that would.
I think we can have a discussion before we get to the budget about it,
Okay.
in light of what we've been
Okay.
learning.
Right.
So, once the questions are done.
okay,
answers are done.
let's wait for that budget discussion then, and go from there. Thank you, folks, very much for your work.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're really,
Okay.
thank you.
And don't forget your, Ron.
I just want to say that both Anka and Celeste are really good to work with. I've helped.
We agree.
And Shannon and Craig will fill it.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris,
Amanda, yeah,
I was going to say, do you want to continue the conversation about it now?
we could have a little discussion now as to what you think. What are you thinking?
We could maybe bring it to a head before we get to the budget, so we know. on
I
this
totally
topic.
agree with, the concrete is a more permanent
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
And when I say add, there's never been any real discussion as to that would have to be a staging area. By that time, maybe we've got space over here, who knows? Feege's house won't sit there forever.
I think it just makes sense to get the best bang for your buck. on
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
basically, I see, doing
Yeah.
the long term with the concrete, it's less maintenance,
Yeah.
and less chance of it breaking up and causing any kind of damage to people's cars or person. That may be the smartest way to go. That's my opinion.
And something that's not in here would be the restoration of the parking lot that is rental.
That is correct.
So that is not even in this picture, and yet we own that parking lot too, and it is next to the alley that would be vacated for us.
We could ask that as an alternate as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you can structure your bid, and you can ask for a bid for the lots we talked about, the alley, for concrete, have an alternate of asphalt, and then you could ask for an alternate as a parking lot, the rental parking lot.
And it was my just thought that there is a driveway from Green Street. Is that have access to the parking lot, or does that just access the renter's parking lot?
The driveway from Green Street goes up that little hill
Yeah.
there, and that takes you to the alley.
But it also takes them to the parking lot for the renters, doesn't it?
If you go around the corner, yes.
Oh,
So
you
we're
do?
going to be blocking that off. That's a whole separate story. That's not going to be,
That won't have access to the MCOR project, will that be blocked?
people don't tend to use it for that. They tend to use it as a parking driveway, and that's not what its intention is.
Yeah, I know
And
it's
making
not.
the property non-taxable, the green space. So we will be not parking the driveway on that.
Chris?
Yeah.
I have a couple of comments and a question for staff. First of all, I don't anticipate that there'll be a time where we won't need the parking for staff. someplace. And it doesn't seem that there's a better location for it than there, those back 2 rows. And I agree with Sharice. I think that this is probably a very long-term use. And Chris is right that I suppose there's some percentage chance that we might say, oh, we really needed a staging area. But until staff tells us that they think that it's likely that that's going to be the case, then I don't worry too much about it, especially since there's some other options. So I am in favor of concrete if we can do it, and do it for both the alley and the back lot, and for getting a bid as to the area behind the building. But in that case, I think maybe we should be cautious about the ultimate decision, because we don't know what may end up. That building is not the greatest building.
No.
And it's conceivable that we'd end up tearing that building down and needing the entire footprint. And so if we spend a lot of money on those spots, which I think there are about 6 or 8 spots there, we might regret it. So what we might do is one of the other alternatives for those, if there's the money, and if there's the need. Because I know over the years it's not been in the greatest shape either. So my question, those are sort of observations about the way I would look at it later. The question is really for staff: how comfortable are you with the various options? You can see where we're all heading, but are you all comfortable with that approach? Going forward with the amount that's in there, and is that your recommendation?
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about administrative meetings, it's a wreck, the parking lot is a wreck and getting worse fast.
The amount of deterioration just over this past winter was really striking.
Okay.
And just to see what happened in one winter was pretty amazing.
And that was
So when they
probably
say that
because
it's
it was
gonna
such a wet
It's going to
winter.
be maintenance in a couple
Yeah.
of years, I don't doubt that for a second. If we do a less expensive option.
Okay, thank you.
So what would you like from us tonight? Ideally, what would you like to move forward for bidding and whatever?
Approve the budget, I think.
Budget.
Just approve budget.
And then I don't know whether you need any more direction. I gather you're going to bid it with various options.
Yes.
And I suppose the question for the board is whether there are any further action items from the board, or whether we defer to staff. I suspect staff will want it to come back to the board to approve which bid. Is that what you're thinking?
We would bring back the recommendation of the low bid or whatever the process was back to you for your approval.
Yeah, sounds
We did
perfect.
with the chiller.
And then I personally feel strongly that we go for the full reconstruction, and if the asphalt is much cheaper, I would be happy with the asphalt. If it's much cheaper, sometimes the delta is so great that you can't not do it. And also the concept of, it's a budgeted item. If we have the flip scenario and the bids come back really, really high, we can reconsider. Just because we're putting it in the budget doesn't mean we have to execute it. So,
Good point.
And I think those of you who have not been in those buildings, it is a fact that they're not really the best of buildings. And I don't know what their longevity would be to continue to rent them. As an income source, it's not a big income source. But it is something that by buying that property, we got parking for staff, whereas parking for staff previously was across the street. And it makes more sense to have staff parking there probably than it does patron parking, because we'd have to have some kind of arrangement for walking across the street with the city than if we had patron parking there.
I think from the standpoint of the city, it would be nice if that corner is attractive, more attractive than it is today. And so now I really am channeling my grandfather, because he was always thinking of, often against his own interest, he was always thinking of how to make Urbana look better. And that the corner, long term, we hope, will be more attractive than it is today. And this may be 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah, so
So in the budget this year is painting for the building, and we don't know that with the other projects we had to work on, like the RFP for custodial services, if that will happen this fiscal year, or if that will happen next fiscal year, but we have budgeted to paint the building so it can be spiffier, and then we've got gardening going on outside, and we are well aware that the library board is responsible for the 2 properties on either side of where MCORD's going to bring people from Champaign to Urbana to downtown. So we have it in our minds, always in the back of our minds, that this is what people see when they come to Urbana, their library and their Weber building. And what it looks like there with the beautiful gardening with the township next door for now, and maybe there's a mural on the building one day. Something to make it fun and funky in Urbana and very welcoming.
We know that MCOR will take some off of our present property on this side of the street. Does it take anything on the south side?
No.
It's the bus turn.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Money.
Lack of it.
Like my
Maintenance.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get to it at the budget time. Amanda, there she
Hi,
is.
good evening. So I would first like to invite Barbara and James to give an update from the process team.
Okay.
Do you want? Okay, tell me if I'm going in the right direction here. At our last meeting, and Jane and I both attended, we reviewed the timetable. We received an amazing packet of statistics that I just found fascinating. And here's what I got from them so far. That is, the library is age-friendly, so if we're thinking of, if we have to set some priorities, it looks like we're pretty good in the age-friendly. It's like 100% or something. I mean, more people are living in poverty in Urbana than did in 2011. But our ranking is better. But we're the 10th poorest county in the state. I was shocked. And immigrants. This was not in these stats, but in something I read recently. We're the number 10 city in the United States for ratio of immigrants, and that's just really important and an opportunity for us, the way I look. And so I'm happy that we're doing so much already. There are 71% low-income students in the Urbana Public Schools. That is growing. That's something I think we need to take into consideration in terms of what they'll need from the library in terms of wireless and things that they may not be able to afford at home. The survey is out, and I hope everybody has filled it out. Here's what I'm focused on at this point, so please let me know if any of this makes you uncomfortable or you're going, I don't know, because this is where I'm starting to focus. One is on space, and not just to think we need more space, but to know what kind of space we need. Not just say we want a bigger library, but we need a room to do X, Y, and Z is more, or we need a room that can do 3 different things. It's a flexible room, instead of just saying we need more space. I'm focused on immigration. I'm focused on voting and civic engagement. I was really impressed by the Nina Paley event and by our opportunity in this library to do more civic engagement, more discussions. That went so well with a lot of really emotional, different points of view, and I think there's a lot we can do. And Dane County in Wisconsin did a really amazing project where they got 92.7% of the vote out just in Dane County in Wisconsin for the midterms. And they did it through a program with their public libraries. And I would really like to see us do more civic engagement in that regard. I'm really focused on youth alternatives and after-school programs, which, again, I know you all do this already, but I'm just thinking priorities here. And that we not duplicate what Champaign is doing, but complement them. If, for example, with their strategic plan, they're focused on jobs and on pre-K literacy, maybe we could do something else. I'm focused on development. I just saw this amazing movie on Canopy called Ex Libris about the New York Public Library, and I was amazed. I didn't expect this, but I'm amazed to find a lot of similar themes. And one is that we can't just depend on city funding anymore. We're going to have to look at private-public partnership more and at fundraising more. And this is just going on all over the country, not just here in New York City. I'm interested in literacies of all kinds, which I think we talked about last time. Tech literacy, news literacy, info literacy in general. And Sharice, I love what you said about Info 911. I just thought that really captured it. We need to do more marketing of what's here already. And finally, we have some unique things here. And I'm thinking of special collections here, of what can we market, what can we tell people we have that they can get nowhere else in the whole wide world. So I'm going to quit there, but that's where my head's going. So if any of you have other ideas, let me know. Did I?
That's great.
Is that about it? Yeah. Okay.
So that's an awesome setup to get us started for our
Okay.
discussion tonight. I'm going to pause for a second though and go back to our timeline just to remind us where we've been, where we're going. So this is our 4th board session on strategic planning. You'll remember our first one was doing our environmental scan. What's happening in the world, in Urbana, in our state, that is the context for our strategic planning. Second, we did a SOAR analysis, strengths, opportunities, aspirations, results. What's happening here at the library? What are we good at? What do we want to be? What kind of results do we want to get? Last month, we talked about mission and vision, and we kept that very broad, had some interesting discussions. There's notes in your packet from the vision and mission discussion that we can talk about here in a second if you want to. Tonight, we're going to actually zoom way back out and talk about libraries in the world and libraries' place in the world. A lot of it's going to tie into what you said already, Barbara, so thank you for that awesome setup. Our next step then is, so next month you get the month off. You won't see me next month, I'll be in San Francisco, not thinking about libraries. And then when I come back in July, we're going to actually look at our learning report. So that's going to bring together our community survey. We have almost 1,100 responses.
Wow.
And we still have 2-ish more weeks, a little over 2 more weeks. Please take some bookmarks and pass them around, please. It's very easy to get to on our website. Please fill it out if you haven't. Please send it to your networks. Really, I've worked with lots and lots of libraries over the last couple of years. This is the largest response that I've had from any library, so amazing.
Wow. And what did you tell us it was, 1,100?
Almost 11, and not quite. I'm rounding up, 1,100. It is available in print if anyone wants a print copy. It's also available in Spanish and French. Only in Spanish and French online. I have not been able to get that in print, and at this point probably won't be able to. So unfortunately, but if someone needs assistance with language, we have ways that we could work with people on that. So in July, we will look at the results of all of that, of our community survey, of the focus groups that we're doing in a couple of weeks. We're going to do interviews. We're having a community leader breakfast. We've got community data that we're reviewing. So everything that we've done so far will go into a report that we'll review in July and say, what's standing out here? What direction do we think we're going with all of this? And then in August, date kind of TBD. We thought maybe at the August board meeting we're going to kind of be flexible on that and see. That's when we'll have our retreat. And that's when we'll say, okay, yes, these are things that are priorities. Let's start to put the structure together of the plan. After the board does that, it still won't be quite final because we'll take it to the staff, get their input, have them talk about like, okay, if the board wants to do X, Y, and Z, what do we as staff do to make those things happen? And what's it gonna cost us? And then this board will have a joint meeting with the Friends Board and the Foundation Board to review the draft plan. Our community ambassadors are going to review the draft plan as well. They've been helping us get the word out about the survey. So we're gonna have lots of input before there's actually a final plan that we're going to present to you before the end of this year. Process questions, we're on track. So that's great. We have flexibility if we decide, we need another month, or gosh, there's a lot in this learning report, let's take it back a little bit. We can still do that, but ideally we'd have something in place by the end of the year. Okay, if there's no questions on the process, I do want to turn to your notes on vision and mission really quick. This was, if you remember, a very general exercise of just like, what's on our mind when we think about vision, which is where we want to go, our aspiration for the community, and mission, how do we as the library make that happen in the community? So kind of different statements and different ways that we're going to use those, but just took some notes from what you said, got them typed up. Is there anything to add or any thoughts or reflections on those? We still have a lot of work to do on that, obviously, but a good start. Okay, I'm going to to turn to our discussion tonight, which, as I said, is kind of a zoom way out to talk about library sector. I had intended to show a PowerPoint. It is not working. It is not going to work. So I would invite you to look at the PowerPoint that's in front of you, and I will do my best to read along on the slides because it can be a little bit small there. You all received a sheet of resources. I hope you had the chance to look at a couple of these. I think I starred 3 on here, hoping that you take a look, because they were some really, really interesting things. And I'm going to talk mostly about those 3 because these 3 reports are very influential right now in the library world. So I'm going to pull out some highlights, and then we'll just have a brief discussion about, what's standing out to you, very much like Barbara's already done for what's standing out for her. But I also know that you have a big budget discussion this evening, so I want to get through just our general reflections and then let you talk for a little bit too. So let's talk about library sector trends, and I'm going to start with the From Awareness to Funding report that was done by OCLC, PLA, I don't know, a whole bunch of people. And this was specifically looking at voters. So they wanted to look at people who registered voters because they wanted to do kind of a comparison of people who supported libraries who also voted, because they wanted to look at things like fundraising. And respondents said that libraries are essential local institutions, libraries advance education in the community, and they're community gathering places. These are things that we know are true here in Urbana. And that foundation library services, so core services for libraries, quiet areas, books, and technology, a broad range of materials to explore, and computers and internet, that those are still relevant things in communities. What was interesting though is that respondents, so again, voters that they surveyed, and they do this every 10 years, respondents said that they visit their local library at least once a year. So there's strong attendance at libraries and going to your local library, and that of those voters, they may not go in the building, but at least once every other month, they do look at the library's website. So maybe they're getting digital service or using Canopy, something like that. 58% would vote in favor of library funding measures on the ballot. And this was the key finding of this report that was done about 6 or 8 months ago, actually maybe closer to a year ago now. But 58% of people who said that they would vote for a library referendum of some kind, that's really huge, because as we've seen in Illinois, there's not been strong support for library referenda, either bond or millage increases over the last, I'd say 10 years probably. That's starting to turn. There were some pretty key wins in this last election, which was awesome. But this particular report said, no, the support is there. You just need to get the right voters out. Also, not surprisingly, respondents, voters, said that they weren't really sure how libraries were funded. So, we all spend a lot of time in that world of how libraries are funded. But I think there is still a lot of confusion about property taxes and where they go. Yeah. A lot of this is because people don't ever see their top property tax bill, right? It's escrowed, it just goes straight, whatever. So they don't look at the line. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at every line that's on there. A lot of people don't do that, right? They're not civically engaged. They just know that it's there, it exists, it's free, whatever. So there's a lot of confusion about that. That's an opportunity for increased awareness and education about that in the future. The next report, which just came out a month or so ago, is the ALA State of American Libraries for 2019. That report's broken down in several sections, so this is just the public library section. The 3 core areas that they said public libraries are really kind of deep into right now are the 2020 census, because libraries are an important place to get the word out about the census, to have space to train people who are then helping get the word out about the census in the community. So that's something that's on the minds of a lot of libraries, and ALA is very involved in that too. Second, homelessness and addiction are issues more and more in public libraries. As I read that every month, there's different kinds of training for dealing with different social issues related to addiction or drug use, with other issues with homelessness or people in search of different resources in the community. There's been a movement to have social workers in libraries, so that's a key issue that public libraries are facing. And then third, equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice. There is a worldwide movement to bring more of these issues into our daily conversations, but libraries are a key place where a lot of that happens, and libraries have a key role in advancing those discussions in a neutral environment. Let's see, so this report kind of said, here's what public libraries do in their communities. They strengthen local economies, They create healthier communities, and that's on a variety of different levels, not just access to health information, but sometimes, come into the library to do a health program and actually get some exercise. Libraries are a place for, are the place for lifelong learning, excuse the typo in that particular slide, and that libraries also provide equal opportunity access to resources and materials. None of this is new. This is what libraries have been doing, at least since I've been a librarian for 20 years. I think that they're doing it in different ways, and the report had some really great examples of what different libraries are doing in these 4 areas. To me, the most exciting and interesting report that was on your reading list was the Aspen Institute report, which I'm going to talk about next, which is called Rising to the Challenge. Really, really fascinating stuff, and libraries all over the country are using this as their foundation for strategic planning. So I know I told you only to read the executive summary. I really encourage you to go back and read the entire report. It's fascinating. There's some really, really great, just innovative stuff that's reported in that report. So, they talk a lot about, and Aspen Institute, everything they does is really interesting and engaging and accessible also. They talked a lot about the knowledge economy and how, that is all around us, and how libraries play a role in their communities, helping people be part of the knowledge economy. And ways that libraries do that are providing lifelong access to all kinds of information, having the capacity and disposition to learn in small and quick doses. Think about lynda.com. You need to know how to use the new camera you just got, you go on lynda.com. So libraries are the place that you can go and hey, I gotta figure this thing out. The library can help you with that. Libraries help people to use, understand, and process information in many different forms. The proliferation of the formats of information just in the last year is incredible, and libraries are the place that keep up on that and help people understand that and access that. Libraries are places to gather, and libraries are a place to access conversations among creative people, and certainly we see this through library programming, where libraries provide a venue for people who want to talk about creative and interesting things. So the Aspen Institute kind of challenges public libraries to have a renewed vision for what their role is in communities, and there's three aspects of that. People, place, and platform, and I just love that and talk about that a lot with other libraries as well. Libraries are the hub of civic engagement. They strengthen the human capital of the community. Librarians are more and more engaged in the community outside of the library, so the embedded librarian idea. Libraries are a welcoming space for a wide range of purposes. We're very user-centered. Individuals in the community can access a variety of tools, resources, and discover and create new knowledge. So it goes beyond just coming here, getting something, leaving. It's the opportunity to connect that with other people who are here, or learning groups, or just so many. When you think of people, place, and platform, there's so many dimensions to those 3 things. Second is the National Digital Platform, and this is super fascinating because this is changing daily. This is the idea that networks, and I'm not talking about just computer networks, although that's part of that, but even just people networks, exist beyond the borders of governmental entities. So certainly here we're concerned about the city of Urbana and the people who live in Urbana, but truth be told, our resources and our knowledge and our people touch way beyond that, and our networks extend very far. So how can libraries use national networks to innovate and share and provide access to content like ebooks? So that's really a conversation that has been going on for a long time and is really changing how libraries work together. And finally, creating a good community outcome. So how do libraries provide opportunities for learning and social connection? Libraries are educators and civic connectors. But what does that look like in a library today? How do we have coordinated, informal, and non-traditional learning? Because learning happens in lots of different ways for lots of different people. And in short, really, how are we having impact in our community, and how are we improving that? This can be in the form of partnerships, after-school programs, government information, health information, maker spaces, economic development, job training, connection to jobs, literacy, technology. You could just go on and on and on. All of those things are part of how libraries create good in their communities. And let's see, finally from the Aspen Institute study, they actually have a call to action. And the last 3 or 4 pages are actually 15 things that library boards can do, 15 things that librarians can do, 15 things that lawmakers can do. And again, I really encourage you, if you have the time, to read this entire report because it's really great. But Their action guide includes four different points. Number one is to align library services in support of community goals. So this means that the library is actually listening to what's happening in the community, which we're largely doing, I think, through our community survey, but then that we support and that we prioritize and support local community goals, that we intentionally deploy our resources in the community and be deeply embedded in addressing the critical challenges that face the community. This is not easy. We need to be flexible. Libraries need to be flexible and adaptable and change as the community changes. Second, we need to provide access, libraries need to provide access to content in all formats. People consume and share content in many ways. How do we make that easy for people to do? Libraries need to ensure the long-term sustainability of public libraries. Barbara touched on this. Illinois, that's property taxes, right? Is this really a stable source of funding? It's recently been threatened with a possible property tax freeze. Like that would decimate units of small government all over the state. We need to show that impact to make the case that we should have more or different funding. And what economies of scale are out there, and what partnerships and collaborations could help with our budget as well. And then finally, cultivating leadership. So this is leadership at all levels to advocate for libraries. The libraries need to communicate with community leaders, develop community champions, strengthen the intersections with diverse communities and communities of color, and engage young professionals to demonstrate the collective impact of partners that work together. Library trustees, foundations, and friends have a role and need to be the strongest champions in the community. This means keeping the library hat on at all times, wherever you are, and saying, what's the library's role in this, no matter the situation? Because the library can create engagement with the library through leadership in the community. So that's the Aspen Institute. So a couple of questions, and I'll take some notes if you have any thoughts, but I also understand that that's a lot that I just threw at you and might be a little overwhelming, and that there's other things on your agenda tonight. But those of you that dug into some of these readings, what stood out to you? What was surprising? What's relevant to our process? And what wasn't mentioned? Go ahead, Beth.
So what stood out to me first was how libraries are losing traction in a number of areas with their constituents.
Okay, talk more about that. Like losing traction in terms of usage?
Usage would be, I think, the overall bucket that I would put it in, and usage in different areas, whether it's attending programs, circulation, many different areas. And then what I think is not so surprising is the guess for some of this is just competition for people's time in our current day and age. So
the other thing I think what's interesting about this usage is that, when you come from the traditional place of like, these are the metrics that show us that we're a good organization, we're a good library, we're doing the things we need to be doing, then we're losing in a lot of categories. But when you think about aligning metrics with the goals that we hope to have in the strategic plan, those metrics may be different and may not be those traditional ones. So and this is happening to libraries all over the country, circulation's down, maybe program attendance is down, maybe not. But if you think about like engagement and what does engagement look like, and is that dollars donated, is that number of people in the door, that kind of maybe changes some of that too. But competition for time is a struggle for not just us, but lots of other community institutions.
Exactly.
Other thoughts? Go ahead, Barbara.
Related to that, which I agree with, is one of the reports, I think it was the OCLC report, talked about people think we just check out books. They just don't get everything we do. I think that's really important. My last boss before I retired, and this was at a really good university, said, people just think the library checks out books. This is a university library. And it was very discouraging.
Right. And so some of our questions in our community survey are about awareness. And it's been really interesting because I take a sneak peek of some of them, and I won't tell you a lot about them, but some people have said like, oh my gosh, I come to the library every day. I had no idea that you did this. So even people who are truly engaged. And part of that is because we do so many things, and that maybe we need to think about through our planning process the messages that we're focusing on.
That's amen.
Go ahead, Renee.
So I have a very different perspective. This has been my kind of crash course in library administration, coming from the healthcare sector. But my husband was watching me just taking this all in the last few days. But what I really found interesting, one, just from the patron perspective, coming into this of, what we don't know as a community as far as what is available and how our libraries are maybe suffering and what we need to do as a community to support them. I think, like I said, from the patron perspective, we don't really appreciate that. But coming from the healthcare perspective, I see a lot of parallels in this paradigm shift that we're undergoing in healthcare, especially working for a federal agency in the VA. We are reinventing ourselves because our funding is not secure. There's a lot of competition, and we are taking this, what we kind of call our whole healthcare approach. And I could really draw a lot of parallels to putting the patron, or in my case the patient, at the center of that, and asking what is most important to you today, and then taking that and branching off and looking and changing the way that we look at and what we deliver.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a lot of this going on, and some really exciting opportunities to shift the focus of what we're doing in our message overall.
And I would also say that libraries can learn a lot from healthcare, because healthcare has a long tradition of process improvement and being a lot more nimble than public libraries. I mean, I think of the Baldrige Awards and things like that libraries have been slow to adopt those kinds of practices, and we need to, like, yesterday. Yeah, so that's, we've had, some of our conversations have been like, what about our capacity to carry out some of these things that we want to do, and how do we build that capacity as we're also moving forward on some of these initiatives that we want to do. What else? Any other things that stood out for anybody, or anything surprising?
Well, it's funny, I wrote down people place platform. I thought the Aspen report, if people just can read one thing, I really love that. And also the phrase library is third place, which we're seeing a lot in the media now. And I was even thinking about how could we use that in a logo or something, or in a quote or something.
It's a nice visual that you get when you think about the third place.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it was the OCLC report, how library was second to last place in a lot of the awareness charts in different areas.
Second to last.
Yeah.
And some of that, I would argue, has to do with habits and people's, just the way they've been raised too. And we can't help that, right? Like that's out of our control.
No, I see opportunity there, actually,
Right.
rather than, it's terrible, like, oh, here's some opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the messages that we get to people that, like, hey, you don't have to have been coming to the library from story time all the way through adulthood. Like, you can come to the library anytime. There's something for every age stage. And like Barbara said, we've got it all covered here. Yeah.
I think part of it, another issue that sticks to me, because it's happened to me, is people don't know what librarians do. I can't remember how many times students have asked me a simple question, which I know off the top of my head, and they'd say, do you have to go to college to do this job?
Right.
Well, duh.
Demoralizing.
Yeah.
Well done. I like that.
Yeah.
I think there's one other thing that struck me is when I'm trying to remember which report was, saying that part of the future is that librarians, and I read it as all librarians, a library, really need to embed themselves in the community. And I think we do a real good job at making that a real focus and say, all right, as you're balancing everything else and somehow or other, you're embedding even more into the community. But putting this onus on librarians to really interact even more than you're interacting now, and so that's a balance.
To really bring the library into the community. And in fact, this is a big movement in public libraries especially, and we've talked about it at the admin team with Cedar Rapids and Beloit, Wisconsin, who have completely different organizational structures that are based more on librarians not being behind desks, but being in places in the community.
When I lived in Hartford, Connecticut, they did that. This is like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Louise, she was really good, the library director. And when the librarians signed a contract, they were assigned to a particular neighborhood. And they went to the barber shops or to the auto mechanics, and they knew everybody in that.
Yeah.
And they went to any regional meetings, neighborhood meetings, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. It's coming back. Anything else?
That might be a good idea.
Well, thank you. I'll go ahead, John.
One more thing.
Sure.
So this is following up on the point about meeting people where they live. So I've been there one other time, but I went there recently because of my daughter ending up going to U of I. I went to the Eikenberry Commons.
Mm-hmm.
You all had a chance to go to Eikenberry Commons?
Yeah.
So the corollary, I thought, so it has a library.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much more than just a cafeteria. It has a cafe, and it has, an exercise facility, and it has meeting rooms. And it's like there'd be, other than going off that area to go to class, everything that those people need to develop community is there.
Yeah.
And so they found lots of reasons to bring people into that space. So it's very community building, very welcoming. And I love the way we have it. But if we had another 30,000 square feet, how would we use it? Maybe not everybody may agree with me about this, but uses that meet people where they live, and where we create additional reasons for people to come here, and then they won't be so surprised to hear about all the things that we offer. And I love places that have good meeting space, because when you run organizations and you have the ability to kind of move things around, and shouldn't we be on that list? Anyway, so I was inspired by seeing people who clearly years ago thought outside the box, way beyond the traditional way of residence halls, and into trying to identify every possible need and creating it. Good things, I think, are following from it.
Yeah, so what do we want to see happen? And then what kinds of spaces and services and collections do we create to make it inviting for people? Cool, great. Well, you have a break next month, so please just continue to encourage people to fill out the survey, and we'll be back in July with our learning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, we have the consent agenda.
Now, do we have anyone need to remove anything?
That's to remove.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any item on the consent agenda that a board member wishes to remove? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the action items. We got the budget for 2000, next year's budget. Celeste? There was lots of figures, and I don't know whether I
2020.
grasp it all.
2020.
2020.
Throw back time to 2000.
Oh,
So you
2020.
had a budget provided as an initial draft in March, which had a bunch of information about what made up the budget, including the raises that we were giving staff and just different pieces and parts. This is a refinement of that. There are a couple of things that came back, just so everyone's on the same page. We had asked the city for 3 things beyond the budget guidelines that they had given us. One was to see if they would give us parity and provide a discount for families that want to get health insurance through the library, which currently library staff have to pay for that 100% if they're getting it for their family. At the city pays 57% of that. We asked for $10,000 to do a compensation study to look at our wage scale and see how it all aligns, and thinking about minimum wage next year and how that will change how things line up. And then we asked for $18,000 to have a security guard added to our staff. So the city was generous enough to say that they would provide us $10,000 for a one-time expense to evaluate the wage scale, but the other 2 ongoing costs, they said that they were unable to accommodate at this point in time. We appreciate the consideration. The library did look at the money that we'd set aside for staff and other pieces, and were able to add a security guard and shifting some funds around. So this budget does include part-time, so 20 hours a week benefited with vacation and health insurance, security guard that would start sometime this summer. We are excited about this idea because we see a lot of relationship building that come out of this. This past year, most of the incidents that have occurred have been with teens after school, and we feel like we would be able to spend less administrative staff time walking around shushing people, for lack of a better word, and have one consistent person who would be able to build relationships and be able to say, hey, we talked about this yesterday, versus if Rachel's walking around one time and I'm walking around an hour later, someone else is walking around an hour later, you can't know all the things that have happened, and we are not able to be as consistent with people. So we think that that would save some staff time, a lot of administrative time, and would provide a better experience for the teens and for the other people that are trying to use the library. Also, sometimes adults misbehave too, and the person can be more consistent with those parties as well. So we have added in the capital expenses. So we literally got the information on the parking lot not even a week ago. It came like Wednesday or Thursday last week. So this was very fresh news to us as well. Craig mentioned Anka sticker shock. We all went, I think Becky heard me from my office reading the memo. So we are budgeting for a couple of large projects next year. We've been trying to piece them out. One would be the voice over internet protocol, the VoIP phone system that would be in parallel or in concert with the city that is looking at this. We would be on their timeline. Maybe it wouldn't happen next year, maybe it'd be end of the year. We're not sure because they have other projects as well, but we think it would be wise to move ahead with them. And that we are estimating $25,000 to $35,000. We don't know the number yet. We could assign $25,000 this year for a big IT project, not knowing what it might be, but knowing that there are capital needs. We would ask that we put this into fund balance and then spend it out of fund balance as the need became apparent.
May I please have your attention? The Urbana Free Library will close in 30 minutes. Patrons who wish to apply for or renew library cards should come to the circulation desk in the next 15 minutes.
Okay, the IT, we have been putting money aside in that special reserve fund that the board started last year. So if there was a need for additional funding, we could pull from that fund if necessary. So if you look at a couple of high-level numbers, if we look at staffing and benefits from the budget is looking at expenses of $4.3 million, including the capital expenses. Staff costs for that are 2.7, which is about 63%. And then, and that's, you don't have that in here, so I'm just reading off, I ran some numbers today. Materials are $443,000, and that is 10.23%. That's from the regular general fund. The library also has the gift fund, the L10 funds, and that's where our money from the Friends comes in and book donations, so there's additional, mostly book spending and some programmatic spending out of those lines as well. So the spending on materials will be slightly higher. So in an overview, it's very similar to what you saw before, but confirming that the security guard would be covered within the library's regular expenses. We would not be putting a lot of, or any money really aside for, towards the fund balance, building that up, or towards building up for future capital improvements, because in part, we're gonna be spending a big chunk on capital improvement projects this particular year. It is our goal to eventually, again, build up both the fund balance and to build up money for future capital improvements, because we know we have more coming. The roof is a certain age, the air handler's a certain age.
I would say that those of us who have been on the board for a while appreciate the council's willingness to do the study of positions, because we have always felt the library was so far behind the city. So that one I think is excellent.
We're not going to be comparing ourselves against the city. This is looking at our wage scale and how it is lined up, and then again, looking as minimum wage comes through. It's
Who is doing that study?
So the city this year is looking to do their compensation study. We would be wise to let them figure out where all their people lie and where their wages lie before we compare ourselves to them, because I anticipate there will be changes. So ours is going to be looking at our chart as it stands. And then again, minimum wage is going to affect the lowest paid people, which will then we have to figure out how that impacts up for fiscal '21. So it would be wise of us to look at that in advance so that we're not surprised, because it's going to change the chart one way or the other. Could be just the bottom line, or it could have trickle up.
I think you said the minimum wage would not affect us in this budget.
That's correct, but in fiscal '21 it will, so we
Yeah.
need to start looking at it in fiscal '20 so that we're prepared.
Yeah.
Because there are many options that you can implement, and we want to make sure that we explore those and have a couple of good choices to offer.
Any questions that you'd like to ask? It's hard to get your arms around this, I found.
Yeah.
More gifts, that's what we need. We need more gifts. And grateful for the ones we have, and that just
Yeah.
helps. But, given what the pressures the city is facing for the budgets, and that we can't count on turning to them, so, yeah.
I really agree. And it shows it. When you look at a budget, it shows that.
So, Chris, we're voting on this tonight, is that correct? We're voting on approving this, right? And then I
Yeah.
move that we approve the fiscal year 2020
Is
budget
there a
revision.
second? Oh, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye, thank you. Okay, the FY19 budget revision. Celeste?
We had just a couple of small things to move around within the budget line, so we're bringing them to you for your approval, a couple of staff requests. And those are there was a memo on that as well.
Yeah, those are really straightforward.
And again, Lupe, one of the things that I'd like to explain to you is that we do adjust budgets all along throughout the year. So it's not twice a year, it's every month that we look at it. So.
I move, we.
You move?
I move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, the resolution to thank Jeff. Of course, Jeff is not here. I think he's in Europe right now. And so I hope he's enjoying it.
Yes.
And we do. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the resolution to give the executive director authorization to ask for a loan, and I think it's been explained, the city is 4 weeks behind in sending out tax bills, collection is late, we're not gonna,
So two things, it's not the city, it's the county, but also the bylaws.
well, the
first.
county, it involves the same thing. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not the city, you're right, county.
So you jumped over, 10.4 is the bylaws.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I skipped over that. Okay, we'll move back to that. The resolution, as you saw, the bylaws, the primary thing that we had in that remains, although there's been quite a reorganization, is that we can vote on a motion at the meeting that it was made in order to move things along that was expeditious, that needed to be.
Yeah.
And so we will revisit these at another time. But does anybody see anything they'd like to discuss on the bylaws that were in your packet? If not, do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. I thank you on that one. Okay, the resolution for authorizing the director. I think it's a bit heavy, but I think that we don't know what we don't know. And so we've got to make it available, I think, to ask for, and we think that the city would be amenable to having a no-interest loan so that it's just to tide us over. In the past, and as you've experienced as you sit here, we only get half of our budget. We always get half of our budget in May, which is the end of our year. And so it really throws us in a pinch when they can't even supply the next payment. So that's what we're doing, is just kind of covering our expenditures for the next, could be, I would say, could be anywhere from 3 to 4 months. Wouldn't you, Ivy?
The most current information is a newspaper article that came out today. The county was hoping to put the tax bills in the mail May 20th. That's been bumped back to May 28th. Taxpayer have a month to pay. So for context, generally, the library gets just over half of its revenue from taxes in May, June. And now the bills won't go out till end of May. So it is likely, if tax bills are actually due June 28th, we won't get our May, June payments until July, August possibly. So the city has kindly, the city finance officers kindly said, let's develop something that we can bring to city council for their approval. Currently, we have $1.77 million that we expect in tax revenue that has been not received, which is why I picked 1.8 in case there was other delays. We want to make sure we can pay the bills and such. I have no doubt that this will all work out just fine, let's be clear. What we're working on with the city is a process by which they don't lose revenue that they would get by interest, because if they give us money, it's not in the bank accruing interest for them. So we are working through the specifics of what that would look like. It's actually likely not to be one just big chunk. We may only need a couple of weeks of bills being paid. Maybe they could do a transfer on those couple of things, then we pay them back as soon as we receive our money. both of those payments, so that we've got all of our fiscal year 20. So Elizabeth and I are talking about this right now.
Okay, because I wanted to understand.
Yeah.
So it would be like, I don't have, I'm trying to process it. I don't have the money to make my credit card bill. I borrow it from my mom until I get paid.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a timing issue.
So that I don't have to pay late fees.
Correct.
Or that people don't get paid.
Yeah, or
yes.
that other people don't get paid.
Right, so we
So I'm
can
just
pay our
trying to-
bills.
Okay, so you're going to, well, stepmom to, which is Urbana, to, and only as needed, not as chunked.
That is
That's a
the
chunk.
conversation today, so we're gonna work through that. We don't want any extra city money, we like to stand on our own 2 feet. So
Yeah, I understand that.
We will talk about what the details look like specifically. The resolution actually gives me the ability to work through whatever works best with talking to Jim Simon, the attorney, Elizabeth Hannon, Carol Mann, whoever needs to be in the conversation to develop something to bring to city council.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have those details yet.
Okay.
So this allows me to have the opportunity to say, maybe it starts like this, but it changes if that date gets pushed back longer and longer, what does that look like?
Right.
And Chris had talked when we talked about it, what if there's a chance that the September payment might be late also? Now, we don't anticipate that being the case. The delay right now is the tax rate being set and approved. Once the tax rate is set and approved, billing people in September, in theory, should be really straightforward.
Mhm.
That's why there's a delay now, though, it's extending the tax levy. So
That was going to be my question. So you think people are going to be expected to pay the June 1 bill maybe 30 days later, but the September 1 bill on time?
we haven't seen anything in writing that says that would be different.
My
That's
guess is it would not be.
There's going to be an outcry.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We anticipate.
So
That's why I
many
pay it all at
people
once.
pay them in escrow in their mortgages, so they don't see a difference because
Right.
they're paying every month.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
don't
people don't do
know,
it that way.
and we don't know how many people pay in escrow versus, like, I write a check. So that is to be determined. But that's why we want a little bit of flexibility in that number.
Yes. Thanks.
And she's going to be in the front line of it, so we can't.
I will let you know what I
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
when I have it.
Right.
But I think you're absolutely right as far as the next bill due, and that'll hit the fan.
So I view this resolution as a flexibility measure,
Yeah.
given the uncertainties of the timing of when things will get resolved, and in a way that may make people happy, may not. But as far as us as a library
Yeah,
board, I
great.
think this is reasonable. So I would move that we approve Resolution 2019-06 to authorize the executive director to execute a loan with the city of Urbana.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I thank you there. Okay, we have a policy that the library has, in fact, published things in the past. We haven't done it for a number of years. The last thing I think was published in, Anka, you probably know, was maps and things, I think.
It was before my time.
Okay.
So it would have been, I think, the last publication was in the 90s.
Okay, way back. So we're saying, let's put it in the file.
It's obsolete.
We might need someday, we need to
Retire it,
revisit that.
irrelevant,
but-
whatever.
A motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye, thank you. Okay, Friends of the Library.
Okay, discussion items.
Oh, discussion items. We don't have any discussion items, do we? I don't think so. Friends of the Library.
Yes, I do have some exciting news. The Friends of the Library is thinking about using Amazon, establishing the Friends as an Amazon seller account and supporting account, which will be very good. We're going to they hope to use stamps.com for mailing, because that's what Amazon uses. They've applied to be on Amazon. It's not complete. It will be an individual base account, which charges fees when a sales happen. Otherwise, it'd be a monthly fee. And then the sales money minus the fees will be deposited in the library account, and then they will use stamps.com as the proposed postage vendor. We do need to have a workspace behind the circulation desk vacated by the DVDs during conversion process for volunteers. This plan is pending approval. Computer, small equipment. We will need some basic equipment, digital scale, label printer, that has been approved by the budget. A computer and online access will be provided by the IT department of the library. The Friends group also at Champaign already does this. And they report that it takes 10 to 15 hours of volunteer work to get them into their online shop. They have a large, well-stocked shop. We will have a volunteer. We have a volunteer who comes in 9 hours a week and who's willing and enthusiastic to the project. And we think that once this gets rolling, we'll have other volunteers. So shelvers will be assigned to check sales on Amazon at the end of every day and pull and pack sold items for the next morning. The oversight will be an email account, bookshop@urbanafree.org, created for the online bookshop. Email messages will funnel to the volunteer coordinator, Eleanor Brown, plus others, and details are worked out. So we want to thank Eleanor.
Please have your attention. The Urbana Free Library will close in 15 minutes. The main elevator will close in 10 minutes. Patrons who need the elevator and all groups in the auditorium or conference room should return to the first floor now.
So we want to thank Eleanor Brown and Becky Brown for their work in getting it moving, and it will be hopefully launched in the near future.
I want to say the volunteer in this effort is the key to making it successful, and I'm so pleased that we have somebody stepped up and wanted to do this. One of the things I think it does mean is we can charge more for books, because we've been charging $2 and maybe some books get $5, but this will give us some opportunity.
We'll be competitive.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So we're selling books?
On Amazon. Online.
Oh,
In addition to the book sales.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
I was like,
creating
what are we
infrastructure to do that.
selling?
Yeah, we get a lot of, I'm with the Friends group, and a lot of us are, we get huge donations, and again, that's a really good source of revenue.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like we will be.
Okay, the foundation meeting is tomorrow, so we really don't have anything new to say. Do you think?
There's a wonderful event this weekend.
The foundation is having an event for donors this Saturday. I don't know what the number is. There's 3 events going on in town that are foundation oriented, so it may not draw the crowd we hope, but we hope to recognize the volunteers who have, not volunteers, the donors to the foundation. In the past, we've never done anything like this, so I'm hopeful that it's a good show out and that people feel that their money's going for a worthwhile cause. And we know that people love this library, so this is just one more part of that. Heartland, Rachel.
Yes, hello. Illinois Heartland Library System is embarking on their 9th year of service, and they've listed several goals for fiscal year 2020. Their focuses will include and improve presence, trustee training for public libraries, grant writing, school outreach, and delivery training for members. Most immediately, they have a sponsored conference called Reaching Forward South. which will be taking place in Carbondale this Friday. One of the Adult and Youth Services staff members, Carol Inskeep, was requested by the State Library to present at Reaching Forward South to speak about the library's experience offering Drag Queen Story Hour. She will be speaking with the founder of Drag Queen Story Hour, who will be Skyped in for the event.
Also, I have a fast facts that the IHLS has put together, and I know some of you are newer, and some of you may or may not know some of the fun behind-the-scenes pieces, so if you want to circulate that around, IHLS is the shared system that we belong in.
Are there any additional reports from staff members, or I'll go to the director then?
Michael's not here, so I can report unless you would like to report on the block plan?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Michael, Dawn, Anka, and I met to talk about the library campus block plan.
Yeah.
And put it in perspective with the work that was done back in 2013 to pull it together and look at the strategic planning process and where we are. We did some factual updates to show what the library owns on this block because more property has been purchased, and gave it to the city to look at and have them help us to see, since it's been some years, does this document still look relevant? For the most part, the document is in good shape, they said. But there are more plans that the city has either created or have been updated. And there's been a new parking study of downtown Urbana. So what we're going to do is look at some of that information, make a couple more factual updates, and add to the end more things to look at, but then back burner it until the strategic planning process is done. Because part of what the block plan does is say, if the library is to expand, what would that expansion look like? And it seems premature to talk about an expansion, not knowing what the different service areas are going to be. So we are going to think of people who might be on a more formal team to move this ahead after the strategic planning is done. And that will be the work that we undertake. So some light work for the next few months, and then move ahead after the strategic plan has been set by the board.
Are there any other reports from any other staff member? If not, I would like to ask at this time, how many of you attended Fairy Tale
I
Ball?
wasn't here.
I'm so glad you did. Tell us what they missed.
My children were thrilled with the miniature pony unicorn. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. So pictures, the puppet show, even though I was kind of disappointed how late it ran because I really wanted those kiddos in bed on a Friday night, but they were thrilled and in awe with the puppet show and juggling and singing and dancing, and I couldn't peel my 6-year-old away from the craft tables, so I actually tried to get, honestly, I tried to get out of it because I called my husband, I'm like, it's Friday night, we have activities all week, and they're like, nope, kids are ready, they're in costume, they're ready to go, get home so we can do it, but it was a lot of fun.
And I have preached that I would like for all of you to go and experience it once, so please, next year, Fred and his wife do a great job of sponsoring this, and I think it's one of our best public relations events that we do, and I certainly hope that all of you can come. Okay. I see no other unfinished business at this time, or any new business to come before the board. I declare the board, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, thank you.
Cunningham's Children's Home presented a couple certificates to us as the business of the year, is it?
It is the business of the year.
Business of the year, yes. That we supplied people, places, and things for them, and Cunningham recognized our efforts for that. So
great.
This will be displayed.
Here.
Is it?
Our gratefulness goes to Eleanor Brown, volunteer coordinator in the circulation department, and Brian Robertson, the head of the acquisitions department, which has been a place where the students have worked for years and years and years.
See no other business to come before this board, I declare the meeting adjourned.